So here we are for Clarity Basecamp. We've got quite a few people on the line and a few waiting for the recording. I'm Tash Vanzetti, Discovery Coach and Mentor, and I'm so excited that you are here today with us for Clarity Basecamp. Clarity Basecamp is an idea that I had group of ideas I put together a little while ago, and I took people through this 5-day challenge that I did on the fly called Clarity Basecamp, and it was an absolute whirlwind, a ton of fun, and people got some amazing results in just a week. So I was sitting there fluffing around over Christmas and New Year and got the idea to do Clarity Basecamp again, but in a slightly different format. I didn't have time to organise a week-long challenge, so I thought I'm just going to do a quick training to give people an insight and perspective on my take on clarity and why I think it's important to look at things a little bit differently if you're looking for a different result. You know, we all know that old expression that if we want things to change, we need to change things we do, whatever the expression is. So I'm a discovery coach, mentor. I've been doing this work for quite some time. And for those that don't know me, I've come from a finance career, and my business has had lots of different iterations as I constantly had this thirst for discovery about what I'm here to do, who I'm here to do it for, what lights me up, what kind of work do I really want to be doing in the world. And it was a question I could never really find the answer for until recently. And all the different business iterations that I was going through, I kept just sort of refining my process of figuring out what was next. What was my next stepping stone? What did I want to do next? How do I know what work I love to do? Because as I'm sure you can relate to, we have so many different experiences and attributes and credentials that we can all call upon. There's some things that we are really, really good at in the world. We build careers around these things, but sometimes, although they look great on paper, they don't always feel great to us inside. And that was the problem I was having, is I had all of these credentials and all of this success on paper, but when I drilled down into it, I didn't really feel happy or fulfilled or excited about the work that I was doing. So I have been on this constant journey of evolution and discovery to figure out what were the components that were going to make me show up every day excited to do what I want to do, to get really clear and discover on what was out there for me, and also how can I help other people do that as well. I hope you can't hear that. There's a lot of noise going on with the neighbours next door, so we'll see. So when we talk about discovery, discovery for me and clarity is all about really getting to know ourselves a lot better, really getting to know the journey that we've been on, the stories that we relate to internally, how we're actually wired, because I don't think a lot of us take that into account. We kind of know when things feel great and when they don't feel great, and when they give us energy and when they don't give us energy, but we don't often give ourselves permission to go below that sort of surface level credential of what do I actually want to do? What makes me feel great? And I have a little mantra called Feel Your Way to Success, and these days I measure my success based on how I'm feeling and how I'm energized by the work that I'm doing, not necessarily what's working on paper. Because I think, we've all done it. We've all created businesses that there's a need for them. They generate revenue. They create a profit. They're helping a lot of people. But at the end of the day, if the person behind that, like you and me, building that business and running that business and working in that business, if that's not the right business for us or the right path for us, we can feel a bit lost and exhausted and frustrated on the other side. So that is why I've put together this sort of little gift basket of clarity credentials, I guess you could call it, to sort of help you start to figure out and maybe get a little bit clearer on the path that you want to take, the work that you want to do, and why some things may feel better than others. So there's 3 components to clarity that I want to go through today. The first one is story, and that is understanding your story. So what are the things that have been coming up for you over the years? What are the stories that you keep telling yourself? And that's a really big one. I often say the most important story of all is the one that we tell ourselves. And story is a really important component. And I see that as the most important component in the work that we're doing around clarity. Because if you go straight to, when people look at clarity, they will go straight to experience. I think, okay, so I want clarity on my direction. What have I done in the past? Where does my skill set lie and how can I take that forward? And what I found is if I look at that straight away, I forget about some other important parts, the story and style. So I take experience later on. So when we're looking at story, we really need to understand the journey that we've been on, what's been coming up on our radar along the way. So what are the things that you are curious about? What are the things that you want to know the answers to? What are the things that that people keep coming to you for? basically looking at all of the different things that you've done over your lifetime, and what is that common thread that's coming through? Like, where is that common narrative coming through in the stories that you've been through? There's a lot of different ways that we can approach story, but I think understanding your story and why things are important to you will really help you get much clearer on the direction you want to take in your business. So for me, although I had a finance background and I was a qualified financial advisor, then I was a business development manager working for Comsec and Colonial and looking after like a $200 million loan book, I had the story that that's all I knew. I had the story that, well, I've only got skills in finance, in the finance world, and I don't really like the finance world anymore. That's not really exciting for me. And I've got 2 young kids at home and I'm going to a job that I don't really enjoy. But my story was, well, that's all I know. That's all I can do. That's what my training is in. That's what my career has been built around. So how could I do anything else? And I stuck with that story for quite some time, sitting there in my, office in the bank, trying to think my way out of that scenario. But the problem was I'd kept that story on repeat. Well, I don't have any other skills. That's all I know. Now, I think deep down I knew that I could do more and that, I was a quick study, so anything that I picked up I could pretty much learn straight away. But I was hanging on to the wrong story. So instead of creating a story around, wow, what else is out there for me? What else can I discover? How else do I want to show up in the world? What is interesting for me outside of my job? Because we have a life outside of work that we tend to forget about. And starting to pull those parts of life into your story can be really helpful when you want to start moving forward and creating change in the direction that you're going, or making the work that you're doing a little bit more meaningful. So once I shifted that story of I don't have any other skills to a story of possibility, what else is out there for me, things started to shift very, very quickly. I soon got the courage to leave that job and go into a completely different industry, working for my sister, doing website design and development. I had no idea about website design and development, but I was excited about the opportunity. I was excited to learn something new. And I kept that story and that narrative going of, what else is out there for me? How exciting is this to go and do this thing? So that's kind of where story ties into this. It's really important to think about the story that you've been through, like your life, your evolution, your experiences that you've had, but also the story that you're telling yourself. Because quite often we can limit ourselves by that story, and we don't often realize it's a story. I often use the term, Bridget and Kelly will be familiar with this, I often use the term mind shit, and my definition of mind shit are the stories we believe that keep us playing small. There are a ton of stories that we have, on repeat, this habit, this narrative that goes on every day that will guide our direction in life. Now, if it is a story that is supporting your growth, that's awesome. If it's a story that's going to keep you stuck and in the fog, that's not so awesome. So when we are looking at story for clarity, from a clarity point of view, is around the path that you've been on, what you're curious about, what's been coming up for you again and again, but also paying attention to the stories that we tell ourselves. So have a think. Let me know in the chat if you're open to it. Maybe some of the stories you've been telling yourself, or, just looking at your past from a story point of view, does that help you sort of maybe look at things a little bit differently? Because what I want to do today is help you shift your perspective. And I mean, I'm an adventurer. I love to climb. I love to hike. I love to trek. I love to explore. My husband was rousing on me on New Year's Day. We did a hike. We went up to Shepherd's Lookout and we hiked down sort of the hills down to the river to go for a swim and whatnot. And there was this beautiful path. It was a rustic path, but it was a path. And I kept wanting to veer off the path and go through the scrub to find my own part of the river, not the part of the river where everyone else was going. I wanted to find my own secret part of the river. It's beautiful. It's rocky. It's, there's rapids. It's amazing. He got really worried because it's summer here and there's a lot of snakes in that, bushy undergrowth. But that's kind of my story and my journey is I keep wanting to go off the path that everyone else is on. I want to find my own path. I want to find my own way. I want to do what feels good to me. Turns out we did actually have to take our own path at one point because the swimming spot we were going to had a lovely couple having a lovely picnic and a bit of a nudie swim. So I decided that let's just leave them be, enjoy their New Year's Day. We'll go find our own part of the river. So I won in the end. So Bridget's saying, one of my stories is I'm a little bit good at a lot of things, but not great at any one thing. Oh, I love that. I had that story going on as well, because I did like to try lots of different things. I could do lots of different everythings, but it's really hard when we do that to find a specialty. But I think when we can drill back into the story, we can understand and own that we are really good at lots of different things, but there's always going to be a common thread. And when we find that common thread and we can hold on to that, that common thread can take us through many different things. And I can cover that a bit more as we go. Now, one thing I've learned that when we are, in my hikes and, trekking Mount Kinabalu in Borneo and doing lots of different things, is when we are in the scrub, when we're running along the riverbank and it's all brush and it's overgrown and we can only see so far ahead of us through the trees, whatever, our view is very limited. But that's where many of us sit. We sit there with a very limited view of what else is out there for us. So that limited view for me in finance was I was sitting in my finance job, in my finance world, just peeking out. I hadn't really stepped out of the building to see what else was possible. So my view of what was possible for me and what else was out there for me was very, very limited. When I took that first step outside of that industry and when I took that next stepping stone, a whole new world opened up to me. And what this journey of discovery and clarity has been is just a continual journey on the stepping stones. So what is my next stepping stone? What is my next stepping stone? What is my next stepping stone? And then when you can start to get out of the brush and the scrub around the riverbank, for example, and you can start to climb back up the mountain, you see things very differently. And one story I remember is when I was in Borneo doing Mount Kinabalu, the higher I climbed on that mountain, the smaller the world below me got and the bigger the possibility became. Now, it sounds a bit cliche, but that trip completely changed my worldview on myself and what else was out there, because we are so limited by what we can see right ahead of us. And what I want to do today is really help you to start to shift your perspective on what else is possible by seeing beyond your beliefs, by moving beyond your current story that, I'm not really great at any one thing, or whatever your story is, and just opening your eyes to a different perspective on what else is out there for you. So whenever I go for a climb now, I love when we get to the top of somewhere and I can look down and just say, wow, what an amazing view. And there is so much possibility down there. There are so many different paths that we could take. There are so many different places that we could go and visit next. And I want you to go to, step into that as well and really get a feel for opening up that worldview of what else is out there for me. Isn't this fun and exciting? And starting to flip that story around a little bit. So I hope that helps. I hope that resonates a little way to sort of open up the potential of what's waiting for you and how you can start to use your story to navigate what your next stepping stone is, but also use story component to really start to create a narrative for growth and a narrative for opportunity and possibility outside of what you can currently see in your reality today. So that's the story component. So that's really the first element of clarity. So understanding your story, the journey you've been on, what your curiosities are, and also the story that you are telling yourself. So I hope that makes sense. Let me know if you've got any thoughts or comments along the way, then please pop them in the chat as well. The next element, and I will send you an email after this just giving you a quick outline of these three components. Take notes as you want along the way. The next element of clarity is style. Now, people go, style? What do you mean style? This isn't about the clothes you wear or the music you listen to. This is about how you are naturally wired, how you naturally enjoy showing up in the world, and where you're naturally talented and gifted. We all have our own unique style. We all have our own way of, our own preference and how we like to show up, how we like to work, how we like to interact with people, how we like to recharge, how we like to just live day to day. Like everyone has their own inner preference and inner style. Now, we can get really good at doing things that don't really match up with our natural style, and that's where we can get into strife, I guess, when we're looking for clarity, because we can build careers and we can build businesses around things that we can get really good at. Sometimes they don't necessarily fit with our natural style and ability, and that's when we can start to feel depleted, frustrated, unsatisfied, stuck, all of those heavy feelings that we get if things don't feel great. So just let me know if in the chat if you've ever felt like that in any of your business iterations or jobs or anything like that, where you're good at something but it just feels a bit, I really don't want to do this. And, sometimes there's a lot of trial and error to figure out what your natural style is. There's lots of different ways you can start to figure those things out, and I'm sure some of you have already done some of those. But, over the different business iterations that I've had, I used to have, I would create products and services that people wanted. They sold, they generated revenue, created a profit. But when it came down to doing the actual job, the certain project or consultancy work or whatever it was I'd created that I could do, I had the skills to do. If I was resisting it, I was procrastinating on it, I did not want to do it, I was stalling on it, that's when I knew that wasn't aligned with my natural style, because I didn't want to do it. So it made sense on paper and I had the skills to do it, but I didn't enjoy the work. So I would finish up that job or that project or whatever it was, and then I would, quietly remove that from my website. I don't want to do this anymore. When we are creating things for the first time, it's really hard to know what will work and what won't, and what offers we want to put out there and what offers we don't. So it is a matter of, again, stepping stones, trial and error. But what I do with every single thing that I put out there is I assess as I'm going through it, as I'm offering it, as I'm talking to people, as I'm running it, whatever it is, doing an assessment along the way. How does this make me feel? Like, am I excited to show up each day and deliver this? And if you're not, then you need to ask why. Is it that there's just something needs to be tweaked? Is it that you need more support? Is it that you're offering something that isn't truly aligned with the type of work that you want to do? So when you are looking at style, it is really important to work within your natural abilities. A lot of people often say, we need to focus on our weaknesses and build up on those. And I say we need to focus on our strengths and really just flourish in that environment. Be aware of your weaknesses, but I wouldn't call them weaknesses. I'd more just say they're not your natural style and tendencies in the way that you work. So me, for example, one of the reasons I was feeling a bit stifled and a bit flat and a bit in the finance world is there was a lot of analytical work. There was a lot of data-driven work. There was a lot of compliance, especially in the financial planning game. The compliance was becoming ridiculous. And I think it's not ridiculous in the sense that the industry didn't need it all. It was more just, it was so much more than I anticipated when I went into that career. And I fell into the finance career. I wasn't out there searching for it. I got a job in an office. But oh yeah, this seems interesting. I did the degree and I worked my way through and, oh, I'm a financial advisor. Oh, I'm working for a big bank. Oh, how did this happen? So parts of my job I really loved. And the parts of my job I really loved were the people side of things, the interacting, the teaching, the mentoring, the coaching, the supporting, the guiding, that kind of the work. Whenever I had to do the analytical work, the compliance work, the repetitive admin work, oh my God, I did not want to be there at all. And over, 10 or 15 years, that becomes very draining. So when you start to think about your style, I really want you to pay attention to what type of work do you love to do? Like, how do you like to show up with people? Do you like to do the behind the scenes nitty-gritty technical kind of work? Do you like to do the analytical stuff? Do you like to do the creative stuff, the coaching, the mentoring, the nurturing, the presenting? Like, where are you on that spectrum? And is your business and the offers that you're creating, are they supporting that natural style of yours? I'm sure we've all made those mistakes in the past of doing something that doesn't feel great, and it's okay. Messages and missed calls, that's okay, don't need those. But it's really important that we do that. Now, there are a lot of style profiles out there that we can get into. There are a lot of different ways that we can research. I think I've put myself through pretty much every personality test, style test, Strengths Finder, everything like that. So I have a really strong understanding now of who I am, how I'm naturally wired, and how I like to work. And when things don't feel great in my business, I do need to stop, step back, and reassess what I'm doing, what I'm creating, and where I'm going. So that happened a bit for me last year as I was starting to do work that didn't really align with my natural style and how I like to show up. I sort of got sucked in again of doing what people were asking for. I said yes to a few jobs that were more consultancy based or more sort of technical behind the scenes to help friends out and things like that. But I started to feel a bit again. So when you pay attention to your natural style, how you're wired, how do you like to work, and you focus on that element and take that forward in your business, like that is your anchor in what you're creating, then things will feel a whole lot better. One of my favourite free, easy personality sort of style quizzes you can do is the 16 personalities test. So let me know in the comments if you've done that in the past. I know a couple of you have. I'm a campaigner, and reading that, so, okay, you haven't done that. So 16 personalities, if you Google 16, so 16personalities.com, they have a free test that you can do. You get a free report at the end. I think you can upgrade to a full detailed report. You don't need to. The free report is a really great tool when you are starting to, go down this path of style and really discover what it is that lights you up, how you like to work, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, how you are in career, relationships. It's a really good starting point to start to figure those things out. There's so many different ones out there. They all have their own purpose. I've done the HBDI testing. I've done Myers-Briggs. I've done the StrengthsFinder, Wealth Dynamics, all of those different things. And it gives me so much more insight and really helps me understand why, although on paper my finance career was amazing, I was doing really well, I was getting paid a ton of money, it makes total sense to me now why I did not feel fulfilled in that. So welcome, Jane, coming on. We're just recording at the moment. You can pop your comments in the chat as we go, and I'm going to open up to a live Q&A at the end, and everyone will get a full recording of this once we finish up. So thank you for being here. So we have covered story. So Jane, just go back and watch the replay from the beginning. So the first component is story. So what's your story? What's your curiosity? What are the stories you're telling yourself? So that's element number one. Element number two was style. Not the clothes you wear or the music you listen to, but how are you naturally wired? How do you naturally like to work? How do you naturally relate to people? How do you naturally gain your energy? And when are you naturally in flow? So if you start to take those two things into account, you're going to get a lot more clarity on the work that you want to do, how you want to show up each day, who you want to work for, and all of those kind of things. So any comments or anything, just pop them in the chat as we go. The next one I'm going to go through is experience. So this is, again, like I said in the beginning, this is where we start to, we tend to jump to experience in the beginning when we start to figure out what do I want to do next. Like I'm feeling this surge of uncertainty or a niggly feeling that I want things to change or I want to shift my direction a little bit and I'm not sure what to do, so I go to experience. But if you leave out story and style, you're missing a lot of the picture. So with experience, it really is about starting to take check and do a mini audit on your career so far. So what are your credentials? What experience do you actually have? Like what skills have you acquired over the years? And not just in your career, but also outside of your work. So I've done a lot of things outside of my career and outside of my businesses that have given me a lot of skills that I can use in other things that I do going forward. So I've done a lot of fundraisers for charities close to my heart. I was the trustee of the Olivia Lambert Foundation for several years. I've done lots of other sort of charity work and support roles and things like that. When my kids were little, I ran playgroups. There's lots of different community things that I have done that have given me a really diverse skill set. So I'm great at pulling groups together. I'm great at, dealing with groups of people, teaching, training, organising, all those kind of things. So I have a vast range of experience. What I also learned in my finance days, I have a lot of finance experience that I no longer need. So although I studied for years and I had accreditations and diplomas and degrees and all of that stuff, that's no longer relevant in my world today. So I can happily park that over there as thank you very much, purpose served, and we can move on. And why I say that we need to do like an audit on our experience and work out what we need to take forward and what we can happily park or leave behind. Because quite often we get stuck in this idea that we need to take everything with us. We have all these skills, all this experience, and we need to put all of that into our next business iteration. And that's not necessarily the case. So I'm going to share a little story that some of you may have heard before. It's about packing light for success. So when I was doing my trek in Borneo a few years back, I, was super prepared. That was Tash, always organised, always very prepared in life. Had to have the checklist, had to have it all organised, the complete control was my story back then. I had to be in control. I've learned to let go of that a little bit, which is good. So I had done all my research. I had never climbed at that altitude before. I had never done a trek like that before. So I had done all my research on what I needed, what I should pack. And I had this backpack, this 20-kilo backpack with me for this climb. Now, it was a little bit overkill. I reckon I used maybe a third of what was in that backpack for the actual trek. I didn't realise that I could take a small day pack for the summit climb instead of taking the whole 20 kilos with me. So I learned the hard way that taking everything with you that you may possibly potentially someday need, taking all of that with you is just going to slow you down, going to, make you really fatigued, and it's really unnecessary. So my lesson from that trip was to pack light for success. You don't need to take everything with you. It's okay to leave some stuff at base camp, to leave stuff behind, to just let go altogether of everything that you needed. Now, everything in that backpack had a purpose. It potentially was needed, but at the end of the day, it really wasn't. And we can pack a lot lighter than we think we can. So one of the things that I've learned, again, while running several different businesses and going through several iterations, is the more you can simplify things, the easier it is. The more clarity you will get when you start to simplify and pack light for success. So just let me know in the chat if you have made that mistake in the past, if you have taken way too much with you on a trip, if you have maybe put way too many offers on the table at the one time, if you have maybe tried to do too much for some people. I know early on, when I was creating products and services, I would try and do everything for the client because I wanted to. So Kelly's saying story of my life. I know it's, we're funny creatures as human beings. We so want to please everyone. We so want to be in control and we want to show how good we are. And we want to help everyone. So sometimes to our detriment though. So I remember, early on in my coaching business when I was taking on clients, I would not only help them with the discovery coaching and with sort of the business mentoring side of it, but because I could do certain things and they couldn't, I would do that for them as well. I was doing graphic design for them. I'm not a graphic designer. I just knew how to use Canva. I was doing XYZ for them. I was doing all the extra things because I could do them, not necessarily because I should have done them or I needed to do them. The clients loved it. The clients got a lot of bang for their buck. But I was feeling resentful and depleted and overworked because I was doing too much. So when you look at your experience, it's about filtering it down and packing light for your success as you go forward. You do not need to take every single thing with you. So like I said, a lot of the credentials and the expertise I have from my finance world, I no longer use. Some of it comes in very handy. Some of those skills I can apply to other things that I'm doing, not necessarily they're just related to finance, so I used to present at conferences all the time. I used to run training and accreditation programs within the finance industry. So those skills, facilitation and presenting skills, I can transfer those skills into what I do now. But the actual underlying technical aspect of the job, I don't need that. I had a lot of experience, talking to high-level people, executives, different organisations, risk at the bank, technical and marketing people at the bank, lots of different expertise, talking to lots of different people in lots of different scenarios and meetings and all of those things. So those skills I can take forward. I can use that communication aspect. I can use that, how I'm able to quickly build rapport with people and sort of set the ground for people and explain things quickly. I can use all of that now in my industry and the work that I do now, but I don't necessarily need to take all of my experience with me. So just start to have a think about maybe, or, reflect back when we're going through your notes after today's call, reflect back, what are some of the things that I'm hanging on to that I no longer need to? What are some of the things that I maybe can transfer that skill into something else that I want to create? Because we often think that, until I have my piece of paper or my credential on the new thing I want to do, I'm not qualified. Now, we often forget that we are more qualified than we give ourselves credit for. We have so much experience and expertise and perspective. We have all of that stuff wrapped up. We have years and years of experience, but we don't often value that because we don't have the little piece of paper that says we're qualified to do the next thing. So what I always say is that, all the success you've had in the past, all of the expertise and all of that is still within you. You just have to learn how to project that in a new avenue, like in a new direction along the way. Let me just grab some water. So when you start to tie together your story, your style, and your experience, you're going to start to get a much clearer picture on which direction you want to go in, and more importantly, which direction you don't actually want to go in. Sometimes saying no to things, even if you don't know exactly where you want to go, but you know what you don't want to do, that can be as big a help, you know, when you're trying to get clarity in your business. So just knowing that, okay, I'm not really sure what I want to do over here, but I know I don't want to do that component anymore. Okay, great, I can let go of that. That just opens up more opportunity over here. So it's really important that we learn to let go and say no to things, even if we're really good at them, because we fall into that trap. But I'm really good at it, and people need that. But if that doesn't light you up, if that's not part of your bigger plan or your bigger picture, then you don't have to take that with you. You know, permission granted to let go of things that you're great at if they're not serving you anymore. You can thank them for their service. You can park them on the side. It doesn't mean you have to forget them forever, but just give yourself permission to let go of a few things every now and then. So hopefully that is resonating with you. Hopefully you're sort of feeling like, oh, actually, yeah, that feels really good. So the next question that comes up with all of that is I've got a bit clearer on my story. I'm understanding more of who I am and how I like to work. I'm going to follow my strengths. I've done a little mini audit on my experience. I've learned what I can take forward, what I can let go of. What do I do with that information? Like I've got these 3, little bundles of data here. What do I do with that? Well, your brain can't give you a definitive answer. You cannot think your way into the next iteration or stepping stone of your business. It would be great if we could do that, but we cannot think our way into it. The longer you leave something, the longer you leave an idea before taking action, the more opportunity your brain and your mind has to talk you out of that idea, especially if it's new and exciting, because our mind does not like new and exciting. We can think it does. We can feel excited and, oh, there's possibility and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But the longer you hesitate, the more likely you are of talking yourself out of that because of the mind shit, the stories we believe that keep us playing small, because of the doubts and the insecurities and the uncertainty and all of that stuff that comes up. The more you think about something, the less likely you are to do it. So let me know if that resonates. Tell me in the comments if you've had that happen to you in the past. You've had a great idea, you're really excited about it, you thought about it for a little bit too long and you still haven't done it. Or you've done it sort of at a half dose of what you really wanted to do. You've tested the waters. You've sort of just done a little bit because that little bit wasn't as scary as the full launch of what you wanted to create. Okay, so Bridget's saying, yes, it's definitely happened more than once. I think we can all relate to it, like always. Whoopsie, definitely me. Yeah, I think we're all in oopsies, Jane, because we all fall for it. We are human beings. I saw a quote about a year ago, so it was just like early last year, and it was, we all have hear the expression that, our life is like a book. You get to write your own story, create your own story, exactly, create your own ending. So last year for me was chapter 45, because I'm 45 years old, mastering the mind shift. Really, for me, my focus last year was really paying attention to all of the stories that I had fallen for again and again that stopped me from doing what I really wanted to do, that held me back, because I would listen to the doubts and the fears and the insecurities and the uncertainties and all of that stuff. I sort of said before that I had a habit of wanting to be in control, because if I was in control of the situation, nothing bad could happen. If I was in control of the situation, I couldn't fail. I had a really deep story going on about failure, that I was not allowed to fail. Failure was not an option in my world. So not doing something meant that I wouldn't fail. What I have learned in doing that work and getting really up close and personal to the icky side of what we go through that we never want to admit to anyone, let alone ourselves, is that failure is our only way to get growth and the answers that we want to get. So instead of fearing failure now, I'm not saying I'm over it, like I still get scared every single day, but I'm getting more comfortable with that feeling. I'm not as scared of the feeling of fear anymore, if that makes sense. I see it now as an opportunity for growth. And instead of thinking, oh my God, will this work? I don't know if I can do it. I'll have to do some more research or find some more certainty before I take this leap or take this step. I changed that little narrative now. So instead of will it work, what am I going to learn from this? What am I going to learn? Because we will fail again and again and again and again, but they're not failures if you take the lesson, if you take the iteration that you need to take from that. Failure is never nice if we focus on the fact that we failed. But I think we need to focus on the fact that we've taken the next step. We've tried something new. We're taking the feedback on board and we're figuring things out as we go. We are all a glorious work in progress. So, failure is just part of the process. So to actually start to use these 3 components in some way that's going to give you the answers that you want, you need to take action. So that's kind of the 4th step. Fourth step. You need to take action because your mind will talk you out of something if you don't. Now, I'm not saying completely revamp your business and change everything, on a whim, but you need to move into the idea somehow. You either need to have conversations with people. You need to test an idea. You need to just be open about what it is you're thinking about. And when we take action, when we start to figure out, okay, I don't know what the next 10 steps are, but I know the next 1 or 2. Let's just take those. When you take those next 1 or 2 steps, steps 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 will all start to show themselves. And quite often they won't show themselves until you've taken the first couple of steps. So what we do is we're around the bottom, we're by the river, we're in the brush and we're in the mess of it all, and we can only see like 3 feet ahead of us. We want to be at the top of the mountain straight away. We can't get there straight away. We have to take the next step and 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 the next step. And then we get to the top of where we want to go. But instead we sit there, with our blinkers on going, until I can get straight to the top, I'm not moving. It doesn't work like that. I wish it did. I tried for years to figure that part out. How can I do that? How can I go and, create all this success and get exactly where I want to be without feeling failure, without falling over, without, feeling insecure, without, feeling scared? It's not possible. Those feelings are simply emotions and signs of growth and evolution. So if you are feeling stuck, that just means your body is ready for growth. Because if you're not feeling stuck, you're feeling content, that's okay. But we are human beings, we are wired for growth. We need to grow and evolve and change and stay curious and stay open. And when we don't allow ourselves to do that, that's when we get stuck and frustrated and heavy and blah. So that is kind of the way that we need to approach clarity. So we need to have story, style, experience, then we need to take action on those ideas. And that's when you can start to pull everything together and create your little clarity map of, okay, what's important to me? What am I learning today? How am I showing up today? Who am I going to be today? And just taking that next step and that next iteration as we go. So does that help? Does that make sense? Has that shifted your perspective a little bit on what your thoughts around clarity have been? Let me know in the chat because I think there's a lot of opportunity for us here to go through. So I'm happy to take any questions, to talk this through. If you have a scenario that you want me to go through with you, if you want me to start to help you piece some things together, that's totally fine too. I'm happy to do that with you. So let me know either in the chat or bring yourself off mute or bring your video back on, and then, we can do some Q&A at the end. Because I think there's so much, when we're in our head and when we're not talking these things through and we're not admitting to ourselves that, I haven't got all this figured out yet, or I'm really curious about this thing, when we internalize all of that, we can't move on it. Like we can't take any action on that. So if you have any questions, if you want to just, free for all or comment or whatever, then feel free to do so. What I'm also going to offer you is I have created, so Clarity Basecamp, like I said, was a free 5-day challenge. Thanks, Yvonne. It's a free 5-day challenge. What I want to do going forward is offer it as a 6-week option where we dive in even deeper for people. So I'm opening up Clarity Basecamp as a live virtual retreat where I take you through these steps of story, style, experience, action, and we build your own personal clarity map over the next 6 weeks. So I'm going to pop a link in the chat, and let me see if I can actually remember what the link is. So let's see if that works. Because I think the work that I've been doing over the years as a discovery coach, as a mentor in helping people, build and create and grow these businesses, if they don't have clarity, if they don't have that foundation in place, if they are building something that doesn't align with who they naturally are, if they are building something that just doesn't resonate in the long term, it's not sustainable for them. It really is not a sustainable practice. So the way that I like to work is to really just get people together to unravel it all for them, to help them see what they can't see for themselves. Okay, let me just exit full screen. I'll get the actual link. I didn't put the www in, so maybe that's why. Hang on a sec. Hey Tash, the link doesn't work. Add an I to your surname. Oh, I can't even spell my name. Okay, try that one. So with Clarity Basecamp, it is over 6 weeks. Now, I'll be really honest with you. The sales page is not the beautiful, long sales page that you would normally expect to see. Like I said, Clarity Basecamp is something I've been working on over the time with people. I decided to do it over these 6 weeks to really help people kickstart 2019. But I've been on holidays. I have not, full disclosure, I have not been sitting there building a sales page. So this sales page gives you the bare bones of what Clarity Basecamp is. But I'm going to open up, let me just get this link. I'm going to open up my diary so you can chat to me one-on-one if you want to go down this path and if you want to sort of get a bit more information about what Clarity Basecamp is and how, if it's right for you. I will go in and finish the sales page, but instead of doing that yesterday, my daughter and I took the dog out to the river for a swim. So full disclosure. So yes, I'm happy to, I've got some times in the diary Monday and Tuesday, but if you want to chat to me today, then just, put a message in here or send me a quick email. I'll send a follow-up email as well, and I'm happy to chat today. My diary doesn't allow people to book discovery calls the same day because I've set that up that way so people don't book call in, I'm not available. But I think Clarity Basecamp is one of those things that I absolutely adore talking about. It's helped myself discover my own clarity around the business that I want to do, the work that I want to do. I've helped hundreds of women from all over the globe get clarity on what they want to do. And it's not just clarity on what they want to do and the direction they want to go in. It's also clarity around what's stopping them. What are those stories that are stopping you from doing what you want to do? So during Clarity Basecamp over the 6 weeks, the first week we go all in on story. So you get video and clarity sheets every week, and then we do a weekly Q&A, a group call on that component for the week. So we dive in, we unpack it. You've got a Facebook group. We open discussion. We get it all on the table. We get really crystal clear on what your stories are and which parts of those stories you want to pay attention to, and maybe which parts of those stories you want to shift. Because if you have the wrong narrative going on, it's not going to serve you very well. Week 2, obviously, is style. So I'll take you through the 16 personalities tests. I'll give you a couple of other options to look at as well, so you can get really clear on what your natural style is, so you can get a much firmer understanding of why some things, Jane, no worries. So good to see you here, Jane. I'm sorry I didn't get to chat, but I'll send an email to everyone after this with the recording, and then with any questions you have, just feel free to flick me an email from there. Lovely to see you. So week 2 is style, and we go through the importance of style. We can go through and sort of do an audit on, like, what are the things that you're offering right now? Are they aligned to your natural style and ability? Like, how are you showing up in the world? Feel free to bring yourselves off camera and off mute and all of those things if you want to jump on and keep talking with me. It's totally fine. Week 3 is experience. Again, we do a mini audit on your career, your life overall, the things you've done, what's important, and we really sort of start to work out what you can take forward and what you can park for now, so you can pack light for your success. Week 4 is action, where we start to work out what your action plan is. And it's not just about going and doing a heap of stuff. It is about taking deliberate action based on the things you've learned in the first 3 weeks. Sometimes those deliberate action points can be a bit scary, so I guide you through that as well. And then 5 and 6 is all about creating your own personalised clarity map. And you have that map going forward. No matter when you want to iterate your business, no matter what's going on, you can always refer back to that clarity map to say, okay, what do I need to pay attention to here? Does it need updating? How am I going to focus my time, my energy? What am I going to be creating, and all of that stuff? So it's a really important tool for you to have. It's a really important, foundation piece in your business growth and evolution, that you understand, who you are as a person, how you're naturally wired, what your stories have been, how you can use the skills you already have today to move forward and to grow and develop in your business. Because we can often get stuck in that trap of, oh my God, I'm not qualified yet, I don't have enough of this, I don't have enough of that, and we focus on everything we don't have instead of focusing on everything that we do have already. So I like to be able to shine a light on that for you because we can't often see that for ourselves. So one of my little magic tricks that I'm able to do is to pull that out for people and say, you know what, you're really great at this, this, and this, or connect the dots for people because we can't often connect our own dots. So as I take you through your story, style, and experience, I can start to connect the dots and see the threads for you and give you that anchor point. So my anchor point is discovery. What's your anchor point? Like we start to discover that for you and for yourself. So you get 6 weeks of support, guidance, accountability, community. You get the process of Clarity Basecamp. I haven't run it in this format before, so you're not going to have this beautiful, membership site. You're not going to have all this fancy this, that, and everything else. You will have the weekly videos. You will have the workbooks. You'll have all that stuff, but it's not, you will have me to guide you there throughout the whole process. We will have weekly Q&A calls. There is an option to do a VIP upgrade, which means you get all of that, plus you get 3-hour sessions, like one-on-one sessions with me and private email access throughout the 6 weeks as well. Because I know, I've worked with a lot of groups of people, and I know that some people love the group environment, but they also love to get that extra, deep dive on the personal stuff that they're going through or things they want to create, or they just want to go deeper than what's possible in a group scenario. So that is Clarity Basecamp. Like I said, it was a last minute decision. So you will not see fancy sales pages. You will not see all of the, big funnels, marketing campaigns, all of that stuff. You'll get me, all of the experience and expertise that I have, my complete joy and love of showing up and doing this work with you. And I really want you guys to start to create a business that feels amazing, that grows, that resonates with you. I mean, I'm all about creating emotionally and financially sustainable businesses. So that is my promise to you throughout this program. So no worries. I'll send all that through this afternoon. Yvonne, it was so great to have you here. I'm going to stop recording now. So for those of you who are coming back for the replay, again, you will receive an email with all of the details. If you want to have a chat to me about what Clarity Basecamp is it right for you? Is it what you need right now? I'm happy to do that. I would love to do that for you because it's really hard to know. Like there's so many different things on offer. There's so many different things you think you need. No worries, Yvonne. Talk to you later. It's really important that you get an understanding of what's right for you right now. So I look forward to seeing you all there. Bridget and Kelly, stay on if you want. I'm just going to stop recording. Thank you for everyone who's come back to watch the replay. Thank you for everyone who registered. And I hope to see you in Clarity Basecamp.